Hello, hello, hello. I think I am live. Apparently, we're going to start with singing. I have got to refill my drink. Hello, Miss Phyllis. Hello, Miss Deirdre and Denise. Oh, I'm going to spill pop everywhere. Let's not spill it on the cards. Hello, hello, Tarot. It's been a while since I've made sure. I don't do as many, so it's not too surprising. Hello, Miss Denise, mini class walk. That is a nice thing to say of my walkthroughs. There are other less nice things about my long-windedness, but I will take that. I will take that. I mean, there we go. We got caffeine that is safely embodied. I was running around like a chicken trying to find, I believe I have, I'm 99.9% sure that I have the relative tarot, but I haven't really done a lot with. I haven't done a walkthrough of it yet, and I cannot find it. I just gave up on it. So we're just going to focus on the beloved dead. Truthfully, I prefer this type of deck as an oracle anyways, so we're gonna, but I'll try to find it and maybe do a walkthrough of that one later. So this one gets to stay. Hello, John. Hello, Anna. So we're just going to focus on this one. Again, I really do feel like I said it was in my pile of decks I've kind of worked through some of the main ones I wanted to get to walkthroughs, and I feel like I have it somewhere, but yeah, the fairies have it. They're like, look, just focus on this. I tend to use oracles much more in ancestral work. I also think that decks like this also work really great for past life work as well as ancestral work. So I'm just curious. I have some like reservations. I do a lot of ancestor readings, both for clients and for myself. I work a lot in ancestor space. I have decks that I use a lot, such as the Shaman's Oracle by John Matthews and the arts by Will Kingham or something like that. Don't quote me on it. I use that a lot in ancestor readings. I use my Journey Oracle a lot in ancestor readings. I use the Book of the Dead Oracle as well. I do use Cosmovisions in both past life and ancestor. For me, past lives and ancestor work are kind of intertwined. If you believe in past lives, then most likely some of your ancestors you were also in other lifetimes with. Like there's a big blending of those energies. So the kinds of decks that I use for past life work and ancestor work often go together. The one that is 100% an ancestor deck for me is the Shaman's Oracle. I really don't use that for anything except for ancestor work. I just have real solid, like this is just my go-to. So it's a little bit harder for me to sort of step out of it. I do have, like Miss Phyllis had just said, she has a hard time seeing strange faces and then connecting to your ancestors. That is definitely one of my, so if I'm going into this with any preconceived caveats to myself, it's that I am curious about that because maybe not have the decks that I tend to use don't have a lot of faces in them in the ancestor space. And so I'm thinking, okay, is that something that's going to get in the way? But at the same time, like on my little Oracle of Place, I have as well, there you go. There's Korag right there. But I also have like two of my favorite cards are the grandmother and the grandfather, which is our people. Well, their old ages, there's people there too. And I use this deck a ton for both ancestor work, and I didn't mention this one, but I use this one a ton. That's got people in it. That's a person, although she's obviously posing. But these two, the grandmother and grandfather cards, like those are people faces. I love these cards. Like they embody grandfather and grandmother energy to me just fine. So So it's a little bit, so because when I was literally looking at the box in Barnes and Nobles, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want, just like random images. And then I was kind of like, oh, it's kind of weird. Like these people didn't know they would be stuck on, like an Oracle deck. And maybe, would they be happy about being stuck on an Oracle deck or not? Like, I'm like, well, that's a little, not fair of a supposition. I definitely have pulled some images from the common domain with that. So I definitely have those kinds of, those are my kind of general feelings. But what I'm excited about is the fact that it is an 82 card deck, which I think is amazing. And I have kind of skimmed through a couple of them. And so I do like a big deck when it comes to ancestor work and that type of thing. So I really am, that's something I'm excited about. I know that, again, Carrie Paris, she did the, I just said what the name of that tarot deck was, Relative Tarot. So I know that this is somebody who does work with and does do ancestral work and ancestral readings. So it's not just somebody who's kind of throwing something together just to make an ancestor deck. So that is something that I'm like, okay, that's kind of positive. So I definitely have sort of mixed feelings coming into it, I guess is my rambling point. Yeah, I was kind of surprised I agree. It's 30, well, I paid 35 US dollars. Well, I know I had a discount from Barnes and Nobles. I'm sure it's probably cheaper on Amazon. I don't know. I bumped into this at Barnes and Nobles. So it's definitely not a cheap deck, but it is 82 cards. So it's much more than a normal Oracle deck. So we shall see. We shall see. I am also with Hollow Tarot curious about the angel wings. I feel like I can ignore those, but we'll see. John said, silly question. Do you believe some people click with others and some people don't click, probably to do with people energy? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Some people click with other people, or you're talking about like some decks click with some people and not with other people? I'm not entirely sure your question. If you could rephrase that, I'll try to make sure I do it. Hi Kendra. So yeah, so anyways, that's kind of where I'm coming to. Somebody in my comments on a entirely different video, and they even said, they're like, I don't think this is actually the right place to put this, but could you please do, because they knew that I do work a lot with ancestor readings, like, could you do this? So I'm like, okay, let me go take a look at this. And again, I would much prefer this as a Oracle deck than a tarot deck. So let's take a look at it. This is let's see, what is this? This is a White Books. What is that? A subsidiary of, no, Wiser. Sorry, I got my glasses on and I still can't read. That's it's a Wiser book, so I'm not sure what we're gonna get with cardstock, but let's see what it says on the back. A hauntingly appealing divination deck. Your collective family of ancestor archetypes awaits you in the beloved dead oracle. They will have a lot to say about your day-to-day interactions, interpersonal dynamics, and inner life. Ask the beloved dead. I do like the title, The Beloved Dead. A question, and connect with consciousness that has left the land of form and now resides energetically as spirit. Every spirit in this deck is a bright star in the constellation that lights your soul's enchanted path to the unlimited potential that is the future. These are the voices of your protective and guiding ancestors, spirit helpers, who understand that there's a great work to be done every minute you spend on this side of the veil. This is a great time to be looking at a deck like this. Obviously in the Northern Hemisphere, we are coming on the All Hallows Eve, Samhain on October 31st. From October 31st to November 7th, which is the astronomical cross quarter, I always do a lot of very intensive work, set up salts or workings for the rest of the year ancestrally. So I do like, I think it's a perfect time to dive into this type of a deck. I do think that it's interesting. It already mentions, right, you're protecting and guiding ancestors, the spirit helpers who are there actively working. I don't actually believe that every one of our ancestors are guides or helpers. I think some of them that are like, I don't really work that way with, and I will try not to go into a whole how I work with ancestors, but I think that the recently passed on people that I knew or could know in this lifetime, I don't actually work with as sort of trying to get messages or guidance or that type of thing from, because they have their own things that they're working through and dealing with, and I try to just support their journey by, saying their names, lighting candles, honoring them and the life that they had so recently had and are trying to work through. And then I do think as we go back further and further, we bump into ancestors who have done a lot of work, have already kind of processed what they want to process, and then are really there a much more of a much more of an active role. There are some exceptions to the rule. I have a grandfather who I did know, that is very active to me as a guardian type energy, but I do think for the most part there we don't deal with every single ancestor as a guardian or a guide. Some of them have more or less than others of work to be done. But anyways, I'm rambling now. Obviously, it's a topic that's important to me. So let's take a look at this. Again, love the box. It's got like I think we're pretty well past the day in which there's like really crappy boxes from mass market decks. They've kind of gotten all on board the give us a good solid box and no bigger than it needs to be. Here's our guidebook. I have read one of the entries for this on the back of the box. Is it on the back of the box? No, I don't know how I bumped into it, but there's a chicken card. And I think maybe I just kind of skimming through to get an feel for it. And I thought, like, why is there a chicken card? Like, that is such an odd card. And I did read the guidebook entry on that. Good thinking. Phyllis is saying she's thinking about pairing this deck with the Somnia Tarot. I can definitely see that. Let me make sure if John people click with others. Yes, get on with other people. I 100% think that sometimes, in general, if we're just talking about people clicking with other people, the 100%, like everybody's not for everybody else. I am not everybody's cup of tea, and that is fine and dandy, and vice versa, right? I think that there are definitely people that they're energetically can be experienced, personalities, so many different things that can cause us to click with other people or to be like, this is kind of more of a discordant energy space. I think 100%. And that I think goes with our ancestors as well, to be honest. You're not going to love every single one of your ancestors. You can respect them and respect their journey, but they're probably not all people that you're like wanting to hang out with all the time. I would guess. Thank you, Hollow Terra. I do love the color. I am all about the autumnal colors. I love them. Okay, let's pull this out. I'm all over the place. Let's grab this. Again, nice chunky deck. Obviously, we're used to larger decks like this in a tarot deck, but for an oracle deck, 82 cards does not happen very often. We'll come back to these in a minute. I do really like the very neutral. They are what I would say is glossy. It's like somewhere between, it is glossy. It's more than a satin. But I have lights that are bouncing, so there's certainly probably more reflection on my table than it might be in person. So definitely glossy, but not overly obnoxiously so. I really do like these background. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that has got like old parchment paper and writing, and you just kind of get that energetic, like that would be kind of what a spirit might look like, kind of energy, and the hint of those wings that we see and everything. It's a really pretty backing. I quite love it. It is gilded. I'm not a huge fan of shiny gilding. It feels nice. I'll have to see when I shuffle it. I'm a riffle shuffler. I know it will age it up, and I prefer that, to be honest. You can like take a like sandpaper to edges like this, and then even put black Sharpie and kind of antique the whole thing. Like there's stuff you could do. I would prefer this to have been like an antique gold or something like that with these kind of older pictures. That's just my personal preference, but it doesn't feel like rigid. It doesn't feel bad before shuffling. We'll see when I get to shuffle it. But you know, I definitely would have preferred a less bright gold on the sides, but as I'm a riffle shuffler, that will dull down a little bit. For decks that are not really high end gilding, that's going to kind of rough it up anyways, and I don't really mind that. So that's that. We'll come back to these in just a minute. Let's take a look at the guidebook. I might need to, I feel like I'm zoomed in more than usual, maybe. I don't know. We'll play around with it. So there is a guidebook. Now, I saw just the beginning of Lisa Papaz's, she did a walkthrough, I think, this last night. I only saw the beginning of it. I just didn't have time today to dive into it all the way, but I did catch the beginning of hers where she said that she thought that the Kickstarter of the relative tarot had this here. So some people might already have these cards for if they purchased the relative tarot through the Kickstarter. I don't know anything about that. She did mention it. Go take a look at her video and see. Again, I haven't been able to watch the whole thing, but I always like to watch her stuff. So go take a peek at that. But she did mention that. So some people might already have it. This is obviously the mass market that I think, is it just coming out? Let's take a look. It does say 2023. Maybe the Kickstarter was in 2020 because it does show a 2020 and a 2023. So I don't know if that maybe originally came out in 2020 and now the mass market is just came out this year. So that is what we have. I like to, this looks interesting. This says, this book is dedicated with respect and deep compassion to anyone who has lost a loved one. It's one thing to believe that consciousness survives death. It's quite another to experience the complicated path forward without their physical presence. Yes, we hold space for one another. We would also like to acknowledge and thank the members of the Private Relative Tarot Facebook group who graciously submitted pictures. Oh, okay, that makes me actually feel, I like to hear that. Who graciously submitted pictures of their beloved ancestors for this project. These radiant souls arrive full of personality, ready to work and ready to become an enduring source of wisdom for those who beat on. I do like that. I like both the acknowledgement that we can talk about death and working with our ancestors and all of that, but as all of us who have actually lost people that we love physically in this world, that whole process of understanding that they are, you know, doing their thing in the other world, that they are living, you know, going through their whole process. That's one thing. Our experience of losing them in the physical world is a whole nother path, another journey. So I really like that acknowledgement of that. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked by that. I've not seen a dedication down there, but I like that. What do we have here? Why do I think, act, feel, and behave a certain way? What's my most authentic choice? What's blocking my way? Am I using this gift of life well? Who am I? Why? And I hear, I guess these are all questions that we ask and can get from our ancestors. So we have our how to begin. I will come back to this because I did skim this a little bit. I do actually really like this Spirit Throne. We'll come back to that. And then there is like two sections of cards. One is a section called the Acts of Love, and then one is the main set of cards, the Beloved Dead cards. And so we'll read a little bit up on that as we go. And then each one of the cards has an image of the card, and then has obviously the title of the card that it's given, and then how you might read it. So you've got a good couple paragraphs, it looks like, of each of the cards. Some of them do have quotes there. We've got some different terminologies coming in. So a page-ish of each of them is what we have here. So we'll come back to that in just a second. And then what do we have at the back? We have some spreads. A general 3-card spread, an evidential spread to get evidence, I guess, of who you are talking to and then get the message. A question and narrative approach here. So it's got some ideas on how to read. Here's a big one. The Beloved Dead spread. I do like decks that have spreads, focused on actually what the theme of the deck is. So we have a big spread to really go through. That might be an interesting thing to do on All Hallows Eve. Pillars of Personal Power. So yeah, quite a bit going on back here about spreads in the back. So that we have that there. Okay, so we'll come back to this in a second. Well, no, I want to let's go here. Sorry, we're playing. You know me. You know me. If you're looking for a quick flip through, I'm late to this party. I saw there were quite a lot of flip throughs and reviews of this deck. So you guys have probably all seen this a million times. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Miss Laura. I don't know if I saw you coming in. Hollow Terra says, I wonder how this compares to the Death Duel. Oh, I'm gonna have to write that one down. I have not looked at that one. Is that a good one? I feel like for a while there was nothing ancestral. I'm going to write that name down just so I can check it. Death Doula Oracle. For a long time there was nothing deck-wise for ancestor work. And then we got and then we got a couple of them that came through, but they weren't all quite, what I was looking for. And so it just was kind of, but now it looks like there's some other ones out there. You always have to go back and see what else comes out. I just happened to see this one. So, but I want to talk about this right here. Let's pull this out of the way. I actually really like this. So in my main deck that I work with Ancestors, which is the Shaman's Oracle, I know it's a Shaman's Oracle, but every one of those cards are in places for Ancestors to step into that energy of those cards. It's my Ancestor deck. It's my primary Ancestor deck. That has placeholder cards too. It has a Journeyer, and it has a I can't even remember now. I see it all the time. There's a Journeyer card, and then there is the Guardian or Helper card. And so for me, that's always like a primary. The Journey card space is for what are you supposed to be doing? Because my ancestors expect me to be doing something. The universe, I think, expects us to be actively engaged in doing, in bettering ourselves. And so what am I supposed to be doing? And then what's a specific ancestor stepping forward to help that with? So I really like having those placeholder cards. And so this one, the Spirit Throne, is similar to that. It's a placeholder card that you can, and in some ways, the other cards that we're going to talk about in a second, the Act of Love ones, also are in some ways that way. But this is a card that you can kind of set at the table and sort of invite your ancestors, or for me, the ancestors of the people that I'm reading for, to come sit at the table. And I would probably personally pull a card from the deck as well to see who is a primary energy that's stepping forward. Again, if you work with ancestral work, you might already have a primary ancestor. I definitely have a primary ancestral woman energy that comes forward that she's kind of large and in charge. And so she often will show up as sort of that primary, but that can change up if you're going through something where there's a particular ancestor that's going to come forward and really work with you on that situation. It may be somebody else coming forward as sort of holding chair for all of the anybody else who has something that they want to say. So I think putting sort of literally putting the chair out and saying, look, I'm inviting my ancestors and those who are willing and able to work with me on the situation to step forward, and then maybe pulling a card. I'm just pulling this one because it's off the top. I don't want to mess it up, but maybe pulling a card that kind of speaks to a main energy that's stepping forward. I think that's really fantastic. So I actually really like, turn off my phone. I actually really like that card there. I don't think it's something I would probably shuffle in. I don't shuffle in those other ones. I would probably just set it face to the deck like this, so that when I go to read, I would set that out, wherever in the spread of the reading, and utilize that as sort of a. I always say with my past life readings and with my ancestor readings, the whole point is, right, that we're giving a space for us to sit across the table from a past self or from an ancestor, right? And we're facilitating a conversation. And so this is like literally pulling the chair up and saying, hey, I would like to have a conversation with you, whether that's for me to honor you, whether that's for you to aid me, or both ways, because I don't believe that ancestor work is a one-way street, right? I don't believe that we just go to our ancestors and ask for help, ask for guidance, and they're just there giving us this information. I believe that the work that we do, either honoring them, lighting candles, leaving offerings, whatever we're doing to honor them, goes back and heals them as much as the work that they do aids us. It's a cyclical nature, and I'm not there just to pull. They might be taking the chair just because they need a little bit of extra help from me, a little bit of extra acknowledgement and honoring, and giving them that energy and that space they might need for the work that they're doing. So quite powerful. Anyways, sorry, I'm rambling. This is an important topic to me, so it's hard for me not to ramble. Okay, so we're just going to put that over there. I really like that card. Again, it really to me then feels like I'm in the presence, at least with the creators, of somebody who has actually worked and done ancestral work, and so it feels very intentional, and that's a good feeling for me. Okay. Jonathan, hi Lori. Jonathan says, I love that the deck comes with a card that represents a space for our ancestors to join us in the readings. Yes, very, very much. Love it. Absolutely love it. So then the other things that I wanted to mention, because these are a little bit different. So we're going to read it. So there are, I don't know how many cards there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 cards that are kind of set out separately from the bulk of the rest of the cards. So how many does that make? Somebody can do some math for us. How many cards are there total? There are 82 minus 11. So what does that leave us with? 71. Did I do math correctly? Don't count, don't trust me. Still, that 71 main cards, which I love. I did read in skimming this part of this, that even if you pull this, you still pull another card to go on top of it. It just gives you some extra layer of action or information. But we'll read that section together. So there are 10 cards that you can see say act of love as is, act of love be you, act of love. So they're action cards, right? Just be, right? If things are as they are, be you, do nothing, forgiveness and faith, here and now, objectivity, observation, self-care, self-preservation, and then a yes or no kind of a card here, right? So, let's see what they say about the acts of love here. I know there was a section. There's the throne, calling all angels, connecting and affirming, Opening and close. She gives you like opening and closing. I'm not quite as formal with my ancestors. No shade to people who are. Mine, we just kind of plop. I literally plop down on the floor. I'm a little less formal. Okay, I know there was a section talking about this. Let me see if I can find it. Attuning the beloved dead cards. Here we go. Here's a section here. Oh yes. Well, I think I did, because 10 plus 11. So I still think we end up with 71 main cards. So it's saying what's in the box, right? So you have your spirit throne. Think of this as a special staging card, letting people in, like we just talked about. The active love cards. These 10 cards are your special forces team. Okay. They are the oracles of acts of love. These cards represent energetic transactions and choices that once made become your alchemy, turning baser instincts into gold. They can represent an individual, an energetic imprint, or an ancestor. They have the potential to release pain and shift unconscious drivers that throw you out of alignment. If you receive one or a few of these cards in your reading, you're being asked to augment and finish your work by committing to a high vibrational act of love. This particular 10-member choir of beloved dead, I love that. I love that, to think about how we've got a choir of beloved dead behind us with these. This particular 10-member choir of beloved dead bring in these acts to help stimulate the process of growth and healing for you. Once you flip over a card and it's an act of love, it also acts as additional layer of meaning. In other words, when you pull another beloved dead oracle card, place it on top. So for example, if we're shuffling and we're pulling a card, and the card that we pull is an act of love card, the next card really needs to go on top of it, because we're going to read these in conjunction, and we're going to take some sort of an action or do something that might be a little bit difficult to do, and it could be indicating that a certain ancestor is stepping forward on the topic of this particular. Y'all know how I feel about Ouija boards. Don't get me started, and don't mess with them unless you know what you're doing. That's my personal opinion and advice. But so that's what these are. So if we pull these cards, it should be in conjunction with another card, is what I'm reading. Again, you can do whatever you want with your own deck, but that's the intention here. It says here, pay attention to the position in which it's landed, make special note of which other beloved deads have summoned this card for you. We'll talk more about this in the spread section of the deck. For now, be aware that the active love card represents a charged area that wants some extra consideration. It's not uncommon to pull more than one active love card in your reading. If there's chaos or confusion, dense, dark, or stuck energy, these cards are designed to open up your heart chakra, restoring and increasing flow. So that's what we have here. I think you probably could, Jonathan, because if you pull, I would say it's kind of like the MasterCard method in Kipper. If you pulled another acts of love, you'd have to stick another cat on top of it. So I definitely think you could end up with a little chain there. Do you think that card should have been changed instead of a Ouija? Well, we'll talk about that when we get to this one. It's the very last card. No, I mean, I think that for me, I can work with a card called Ouija. I do like the spirit, I like the term spirit board. And again, many people use Ouija boards and spirit boards. So everybody's got to do you. My upbringing, too many horror movies, and truthfully, my understanding that everything in the world and energetic world is not beautiful or wonderful, nor does it want to be your friend. makes me very leery of opening gates unless you know what you're doing and can clean up the energy and close the gates afterwards. So that is like, there's a lot of people who utilize spirit in Ouija boards. So for me, this would just come up as a communication card, right? It's definitely about communication. I don't have to get out a Ouija board. And again, people can use those to great effect. I am just very leery of them. And I just think people should be smart about how they're using them. So, so I don't have a problem with the card itself because I would just use that probably as a community. There's some extra communication that might incline me to maybe pull another deck and pull what is the message coming through. So I actually like the card. Okay. So then, of course, it also has the beloved dead cards. The beloved dead cards are our esteemed family of radiant souls. They will have a lot to say about your day-to-day interactions, personal dynamics, experience of life. Each card will feature a character in a scene. The card is representative of the message from that scene. Ask a question, connect with the card's energy, and receive its celestial perspective. Again, I don't think that, every single one of our ancestors are what do they keep saying? An esteemed family of radiant souls. I don't think all of our ancestors are radiant souls, right? I don't. I mean, I think that they're all on the path to getting there, but because I do believe in reincarnation, I do think we're all, going through the process of becoming, learning lessons and doing a lot of work that has to be done. And so I don't actually think that all of our ancestors in our ancestral line are radiant souls. I do think that as people working with your ancestors, that you are setting those boundaries of working with people who are ready and willing to step forward in that capacity. And so I think it is important to note that. Yeah, they don't. And again, that's okay, right? They're on their own journey, and I'm going to still honor and respect those ancestors and try to help them with the healing work that they have to do. So it's not, they don't need to be, right? They're on their own path and their own journey. But I do think we have to be careful with the Ouija boards and just in general ancestors. That it's not like they're all, every single ancestor is a radiant soul. They have work that they have to do as well. Okay. I always recommend, oh my goodness, can I see it from here? No. Deirdre, what is it called? Ancestral medicine. There's a book called Ancestral Medicine. I can only see the top of it. I think that's a great book. I think it does a really good job of talking about, that there is healing work to be done, that there are some people who have terrible recent ancestral energy, right? Terrible. Just always remember that you can skip past that, right? So if you have a generation or two or three of just really difficult energy, people, abusive energy, energy that is not something that you really are ready or willing to dive into, it doesn't mean that you can't work with your ancestors, right? You can reach back further. In fact, I recommend starting to the way back, what I call primal. And I don't know if that one uses, people use different terms, but for me, it's primal ancestral energy. This is these back of the beyond people that have watched the family for generations, that have chosen to step into familial guardian roles. Those are very strong, stable, not necessarily easy, but strong and stable energy that has already done a lot of that work. It's like, I would even put them like, like a bodhisattva that has kind of stepped off the wheel to help other people because they've kind of done that work. In the Cosmovision Oracle, James Eads calls them spirit orbs for past life work. Like they've done a lot of the work already. And so they have, they're in that position to be able to do that. So if you have, recent generations of dysfunction, you might want to step backwards and not step into that stuff yet. Anyway, this is just definitely not we're rambling about ancestors. Thank you, Hollow Tarot. Ancestral Medicine, Rituals for Personal and Family Healing by Daniel. I don't know if it's four four, zoo, four. I'm not sure. Sorry. Um, I'm not sure how it looks. I think I don't know if it's four or four, but anyways. Um, thank you both Jonathan and Hello Tarot. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Okay, let's move, keep on moving, right? All right, so we talked about this one. Let's zoom in a little bit more now. We'll rate and I'm going to read a whole entry, but I want to, find a card that this one kind of looks like one of my grandmother's. So these again are the act of love. So this is asking, when this card comes up, from how I understand it, this is coming forward and saying there's an extra act that needs to be done that we might be not easy to do in relation to another card that we're going to put on top of it. So let me see. I don't know if there's keywords in here. Let's take a look here. So let's take a look at this first one here. See, again, this has a quote. They don't all have quotes, but some of them do. So let's just read this first one and then we can read other ones too. Here is the card. It's the act of love, but this main card is as is. What if I forgave myself? What if I was sorry? What if yes was the right answer instead of no? What if what made me do all those things was also what had got me here? And it is by, I'm having a hard time reading that, Cheryl Strayed from Wild. You may want something to be dramatically different, if only, maybe, if just. Your ego rides in like the cavalry to help make sense of the unexpected and unwanted dynamic. This can't be, but it is. So this is really asking you to sit with what is actually there. But it is. And so the ego tries to absorb the shock. When you receive as is in a reading, it's activating a truthful acceptance and acknowledgement of a situation. It requires a removal of your rose-tinted glasses and a willingness to surrender to something that, at least for a time, is manifestly out of your control. These following three little words, a stark and simple mantra, help ground you in reality and provide the closure necessary for you to move on to a new normal. There it is. There it is. There it is. It just is what it is. So that can be, something positive, but it could also be us sitting with, like, this situation is hard and it is what it is. We can't wish it out of being. We can't change. We have to come to an acceptance of things as they are before we can go anywhere from there. So I think that's really beautiful. And I think that the image is really gorgeous as well. I actually like that the wings, well, at least on this one, the wings look a little, oh, there's different kinds of wings. This one looks more like raven wings to me, which I love. Hollow Terror says, this tells me that I'm good enough. I like that as well. So again, this is, so the acts of love, so that's what it's giving you in this section. Now they're not all the same, right? So this doesn't have a quote. This is a longer, and so on and so forth. So it's not following a formula. She's giving you what it is that you need in order to kind of lock into what is the energy of this card showing up. And again, you would be pulling that with another card. I'm just pulling the top one. But for example, if you got this card and then you pulled the absence, then, how powerful is that, right? Accepting the fact that there is this absence, whatever that might mean to you in the middle of that reading, and that we can't really wish that away, and that we have to accept the fact that it is an absence. It is somebody that is, or a situation that is not there, and we cannot pretend otherwise. And we have to really acknowledge that absence before we're going to be able to really move on. So that would be really powerful in terms of combining these things together. I'm sorry, Raven. Raven says she's been on the fence and I'm making her do it. We're not done yet. Maybe at the end you'll say, no, I'm not going to. Okay. That to me, I think this can be very powerful card to show up in a reading. Okay, so active love. So this is as is. This one is be you. I mean, I do love the fact that people put forward their picture of their ancestors for this. I think that's really cool. I don't know that all, again, there's that little trepidation that these are like real people who may not want to be in an oracle deck. Certainly, and not too far history, right? We're going to have some family members who would think that's really awesome, and we're going to have some people that would have been horrified to be in an oracle deck. So there's that little bit of trepidation there, but I do love that these are cards or images that were put forward as well. I love this picture. I feel like this person is just being themselves. Like, what are they wearing? I mean, I love the outfit here. I don't know what's going on around the waist. Like, that's a really cool, but look at her or him. I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter, but look at that like just very beautiful abandonment and very comfortable in your own skin and just being fully themselves. I really love that. Okay, there's that. Now here we have a do nothing, and we have a very kind of not moving car. You know, this person is just sitting still. It's not a time to act right now. I can really see, I like this function of these acts of love. I don't know that the term act of love is kind of an odd one to what I'm seeing or how I might use it, but that's not neither here nor there. I like the concept of these cards. And the way that I could see them really functioning well in a reading. I think they could come up quite powerfully, again, in combination, right? So again, I don't want to mess up the order of these yet, but if you have do nothing, even though there is an absence, don't chase that situation, don't chase that person, don't, this right now, yes, they're not there, but it's not time for you to do anything about that. That's a powerful message that we need to get, right? So I really think these cards could function quite strong. She does. She looks like, you know what? I'm good. I don't have to do anything right now. I can just sit here and be centered in self. The wings, I'm not finding a problem with the wings. They're different kinds of wings. Fey energy is very much connected for me, and past life energy, Fey energy, ancestral energy is all connected, and it works. It's just a reminder that these are not, somebody in our current life. They don't feel angelic to me. Like, I don't feel like they're angel wings. They just feel like a reminder that we're looking at the essence and the spirit form of these people versus the actual people and the lives they lived in that physical body. So I'm actually not finding them. I wondered if they would bother me, but as of right now, they're not really bothering me. And I like that they're different kind of shapes and types of wings. So we have the do nothing, forgiveness and faith, right? This could be a really difficult card, right? Again, if you have, we're going to keep using absence, right? If you got the absence card with this, and how that's an extraordinary act to step forward and have forgiveness in the face of somebody's absence, that could be really powerful to sit with and work with. It's going to ask you to do something kind of above and beyond. I think these cards are going to be quite strong. Here we have the here and now card. Be present where things. It's kind of interesting in terms of, do all 80 cards have, I think they all do. Yeah, as far as I can see, Miss Phyllis, they all have wings. Except for the Ouija at the end. Again, we'll see as we flip through, but it looks to me like they all do, except for the Ouija card, the mess. We'll have to read what that means when we get to it. But this one doesn't, the chair one doesn't, and the Ouija doesn't, but it looks like all the other ones do. Here we have objectivity. Like, that's a hard one, right? Let's be objective in the midst of whatever's happening. Observation. I really like her with her spyglass. Self-care in the presence of absence. How do you take care of yourself? I really like these. Again, I don't know that I'm a fan of the act of love title, but it is an act of love even to do the hard things. Self-preservation. She's pushing against a gale and moving forward. That's really beautiful. And then yes or no. Let's read that one. I think that could be interesting. I'm surprised there's not a yes and a no card. So let's see. What's it going to be? Yes or no? One inner voice is telling you one thing and another is radically different. How do you know which one is right? Your heart wants this, but your head thinks that. Honestly, the lunatics are running the asylum. I will say that so far I like the language of the guidebook, or the voice. I don't know who wrote the guidebook. I think the second person, somebody, maybe Jonathan knows, he's had this deck longer. I think maybe the Tina Hart wrote the guidebook, but I could be wrong. That's just, I feel like I heard that somewhere, but don't trust me on that. But if so, I really like her voice. Honestly, the lunatics are running the asylum. Still, rather than make the wrong decision, you declare an impasse, choosing instead to block out both voices and assume the safe but stagnant stance of perpetual maybe. The beloved dead of yes and no says that this isn't the time to be wishy-washy, which effectively gives others control over your strings. How would things shift and change if you would only dare to step out of your comfort zone? The yes or no card is asking you for a commitment. Take charge, say yes, say no. Either one you pick, doesn't matter. Just pick something. I like this. I do like the feel of this. Allow the beloved dead that falls with this card to help you to form your conclusion. Again, with our absence, that'd probably be a no. You could also maybe roll a dice on it, right? For this would be like even numbers are no and odd numbers are yes, or bones or whatever you have to do yes and no's. This might be a say, okay, you're going to do whatever you're going to do and take your make your answer. But the point is that you have to, it's like a crossroads card. Now is not the time to sit still. Now is the time in which we need to make a decision. So I like that. Oh, here, look at this. It says there's a tip. Prior to a divination, you can turn the yes or no card around many times and randomly insert it into the deck. If it falls right side up, take this as yes. I don't know that I would do that. I'd probably just roll for it because that's my typical thing, or pull some playing cards or something like that. But the point is that this card says, do something, make a decision one way or another. I love it. And yeah, he looks like he's like a forerunner to like the Muppets or something. Look at all the dolls. He's definitely like a puppet master or a ventriloquist kind of guy. Don't let if you don't make a decision, somebody's going to talk for you. I quite like that. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so those are, I really like these. So these are the acts of love. And remember, if you pull it in a reading, you're still going to pull the next card and you're going to use those two in conjunction of each other. So but they get shuffled in with the rest of I really love her. They get shuffled in with the rest of the deck. So we've taken a look at the Spirit Throne and the Acts of Love cards up here. And so then the rest of them are sort of the primary cards. Now I would assume, so this is how I treat my Shaman's Oracle, which is again my Ancestor Oracle, but the real title is Shaman's Oracle. I treat that as either depends on how the reading is set up. It's either I'm using that for a message, this is a general message, or I'm saying, okay, this is an energy of an ancestor stepping through this particular card for a reason, right? In some way, it depends on the spread that you're using. Okay, let me pull ourselves up here. So it looks, pretty similar in terms of the guidebook. There are, you've got about a page, some longer than others, but you have about a page or so of text for each one of the cards. So we'll go ahead, since we spent all this time with the absence cards, we'll go ahead and read this one. It says, Holes are made in many ways with hollows of varying breadth and depth. Some graze the surface, others are fathomless voids. All create longing for what once was or should have been. All destroy our sense of being present, steady, and whole. Absence at its heartrending core is a hole. It is a vibration of loss. It's also the childhood wounding and adult anxiety caused by emotional or physical abandonment. Parents are painstakingly human and often not the most enlightened, responsive, or responsible caregivers. They are riddled full of their own holes, immature or negligent, and children get raised in those holes. The sense of absence is what they come to know, and it's difficult to emerge from that hot mess unscathed. And yet, absence asks, even if you'd been born in utopia, would you be more likely to fulfill what you came here to do? Like many summa cum laude graduates of the School of Hard Knocks, you more than likely have unique abilities that required a different gestation, soul gifts that would have withered in full sun. The beloved dead of absence arrives to say that it's time to celebrate your exceptionality, your extraordinary lack of ordinary. If you're grieving a loss of a loved one, allow yourself to be supported and comforted by your ancestors. They're surrounding you with love every day, every sleepless night, attempting to ease your heart. Prolonged suffering can make you absent from your life or your ability to fully be present for others. This isn't your loved one's wish for you. That's really powerful. Again, I really like the writer. Jonathan says that Phyllis can only see Charlie Chaplin. Jonathan says that he checked and Carrie Paris created the cards and Tina Hart. I like the language and the voice of the writing of this deck. I think it's so far I've been really impressed by it. Charlie Chaplin, he's absent here. I mean, that's a flawed individual as well, isn't he? I think you could work with that. Okay, let me move some things. I'm going to put these over here. Thank you for checking that, Jonathan. I thought I saw that somewhere. Plus, because I know Carrie Paris makes other decks and things, I assumed that she made the deck, so it made sense that the other name would be somebody that wrote the deck. Okay, so there we have absence and an example of the guidebook. Again, I'm really impressed with the guidebook. Here we have the academic. Reflects the energy of a lifelong student, continually striving for higher education. The card of academia. If you receive this card, so I do like that there's often a section that you can key in on, like if you receive this card, right? The academic card is inspiring you to sharpen your pencils, put a penny in your loafers. No time like the present to crack open that book or those files and pursue the path of writing, studying, training. It's time to apply your mind and learning to something with the academic. I do like the clothing. I watched a bit of somebody's video. I'll see if I can find it, but she was talking about how is there somebody with a YouTube channel? It's not Queen Osset that I know of. It's Queen Osset something, I think, that did a walkthrough on this. I'll try to find it and link it. Let me make a note because I will forget. I really liked her conversation about this deck. She was just really talking about how she really enjoyed the clothing and the way that people seem to pay much more attention to their way in which they presented themselves. I think she talks a little bit about her grandfather who was an alcoholic, but he was always clean. He was always presenting himself well, or people that didn't have, like my family had no money. But it was still important how that you be clean and that you be presentable. That's not a thing just to do with money. Yeah, is that Jonathan? Does she have a web YouTube channel? I don't know. I need to go back and rewatch some of her other things. I really enjoyed her conversation. Again, I didn't finish the whole thing, but she was just kind of really conversational about her, her family and the way in which people present themselves and take care. She really enjoyed seeing that we don't see that as much today as we did always. And she really liked that about, and I enjoyed the conversation that she was having around that and about her grandfather and things like that. It was quite lovely. Um, okay, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. So academic. Here we have addiction. Obviously, of course, and I think she even mentioned. Sorry, now I'm gonna be stuck in her thing. But she even she talked about that, and then this came up. She's like, well, he was wearing a tie, right? He's not quite so well put together as the rest of the people, but he was wearing a tie. Obviously, addiction and issues with alcohol, issues with all other lots of kinds of addictions and addictive personalities that can happen. That certainly is a problem that is not of just our generation, right? And this talks about how when it falls into a spread, it could be addressing an issue of escapism or overindulgence in any life area, right? We have to be careful not to just think of addiction as alcohol or drugs or things like that. There are many ways in which we utilize escapism from situations that we just don't want to deal with, and it generally ends up making us just dig a bigger hole, right? So that's a powerful card. Here we have ancestry. I feel like this is interesting, like in a deck of all ancestry work, it's interesting to have an ancestry card. There's a quote by Linda Hogan that says, walking, I'm listening to a deeper way. Suddenly all my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say. Watch and listen. You are the result of the love of thousands. So it's just talking about how we don't come from nothing, right? That there are so many things. So when this came up in a reading for me, this could be very much saying, look, there's more here than meets the eye. That this situation or how you're responding to the situation, positively or negatively, just a reminder that you are sort of at the moment, the final iteration of a long history of things. And I don't believe that just hair color and eye color and things like that come through the bloodline, right? There are many different things that we inherit genetically, that even though we're soul going through different lifetimes, I believe, we also have an inheritance of this physical body, which is really interesting. So that's quite beautiful. Heritage would be interesting as well. Again, I haven't read this. I'm just saying, who and what are, this is bad. We're starting a bad roll of reading too many of these. I'll speed it up, I promise. Who and what are we? By mass, we're a lot of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, big bags of mostly water, gently incorporating some proteins, DNA, and then the peace day resistance ancestors. There by the grace or disgrace of your forebears go you, your parents, their parents, their parents, and so on, from the known to the dark unknown ancestors nestled in the folds of time and more. I really like her voice. Happy or sad, these are sacred stories. While it's one thing to inherit green eyes and an aquiline nose, it's quite another to be possessed of an inauthentic and learned way of thinking, feeling, acting, or decision making. When growing up, in order to belong and survive within a family, social group, or culture, and to be loved and accepted, we begin to internalize the tribe's norms. As a child who requires security, stability, and safety, it makes good sense to adapt who we are and our own innate desires, ideals, and values to please and appease. Yet inevitably, as adults, some of those patterns can wreak havoc on your own happiness and evolution. Where does the past stop and you begin? And yet we also often neglect to connect our strengths and more remarkable survival traits to our ancestors. Do we think we just got them for free? I quite love that. Both positive and negatively, right? These things came from somewhere other than us, and it wasn't for free. None of it was for free, right? It all came at a cost. Pretty powerful, pretty powerful. I do really like the writer of this book. So again, we have a card on appearance. I'm going to speed it up. Let's look through the rest of these cards. I really like the guidebook. I think we have covered that thoroughly. Here we have Arcana. Here are the two kinds of truth: the truth we keep to ourselves and the truth we show others. Interesting. You may be working with a departed soul who might not be ready or doesn't wish to divulge their truth. So it can be about the unknowable as well. The beloved dead of Arcana knows that although dead and buried, Arcana still has the power to haunt the living. This card on rare occasion can help you on your journey to unearth any hidden truth for the highest good. John says that's an amazing ancestry card because those two adopted the boy, and it's about ancestry being greater than just blood and ancestry. It's part of it, but it's not the whole picture. I do like that, Jonathan. Here we have attention. Something's getting your attention here. We have backstory. I love that card, right? What's the backstory behind this? There are so many things about our ancestry and ourselves. We think we know the whole story, but we don't, right? We just have, even about our parents, like think about our parents. We think we know so much about them. We, love things about them. We don't love things about them. We think that their whole lives in some way are around, how they were parents to us, but they had their whole own life, their whole own hurts and disappointments and their own absences that they had to deal with. They have this whole story that we really don't know. And think about our grandparents. We know even less about that. And then go back further and further. We have to understand that if we just have this story about this one guy who was like a horrible human being or something, we don't know the whole story. And it can be a reminder that we don't have the full story, and that we can offer grace even to somebody who has what story we do know looks pretty gross or problematic at best. We have to understand that we don't know how they came to be who they were, and that we can just at least honor support for their healing because we don't know the whole story. So I really like that card. Definitely a high priestess energy of that Arcana card. Here we have body. Body reminds you of your own choice to have incarnated into a physical life, which I do believe, and therefore you still have the privilege and responsibility of caring for your soul's package. The beloved dead of body advises that if your physical form has lately been moaning and groaning, then listen. Ask it what it needs or what it doesn't. Yeah, we can't just pay attention to the soullessness or the souls, I should say, the incorporeal. We need to pay attention to our physical self as well. Hi, Pamela. So we have body, we have bohemian. It's so hard. When the free spirit of bohemian swans into your reading, she blows open the louvered doors of perception and asks that you take a walk on the wild side. Loosen your grip on tradition, the mainstream, anything that binds or clips your wings, and take some time to smell the roses, the Torah bread, the laundry. Alternatively, if this resonates as a pattern of problematic relationships stemming from a commitment phobia, you may want to ask yourself whether or not the connection you're forming and attracting are stable, and if not, why. I really like the guidebook. Here we have change. That's an obviously important card to have. The chicken one, I was like, okay, because I opened up the box and I just kind of flipped through quickly, and I thought, oh no, like, why is there a chicken card? Like, it doesn't even go, like, the name doesn't even go with any of the other cards. I did like what I read, right? So we're going to read it. When chicken enters, it does so with trepidation, head down, focused on pecking pellets in the sand. At chicken's core is a powerlessness, helplessness, an inability or reluctance to step out of a comfort zone. Why? Because there's always the fear of the fox in the hen house. This is a card of avoidance. Chicken deals with perceived threats by withdrawing, quitting, running away, or even combusting whatever reinforces feelings of inadequacy. The beloved dead of chicken knows how a painful lack of support and validation can force a young heart to adapt. It either grows stronger and develops warrior instincts, or fainter and chooses to don a feathered breastplate, the armor of the lily-livered. If you're unconsciously releasing this energetic pheromone into the universe, beware it attracts the pet predators. Fear can be a healthy instinct, particularly when it's keeping you safe from real crocodiles, but not if it's keeping you wired in by self-imposed doubts and limitations, scratching in the dirt instead of soaring with the eagles. Summon your inner sovereign. I do not see Aleister Crowley in the chicken car, but that would be hilarious. I would like to know the story behind this person in this giant chicken suit. The only issue I have is that I know it's using like you're a chicken, like you're a scaredy cat, you're a chicken, but chickens can be pretty ruthless too. Like roosters in particular, they can chase you all around. I know, I know. He doesn't look particularly happy to be in that suit, but he's got lessons to give us. Interesting to have boxing for communication. Again, I have to speed up. It goes into a lot of information about the parent ego, the child ego, the adult ego. Um, when communication appears, it wants to explore how you're relating to others in your life. You know, is it combative? Is it not combative? I'm gonna try to keep moving. So I think that would be an interesting card to come up. Oh, I really love her wings. Here we have a compass card. Love a compass card. Here we have a competition card. That makes sense. Conflict. Oh, he's got a gun. I was gonna say he doesn't look. He's very happy. He doesn't look like he's having any conflict, but he has a gun in his hand. So, yep, a little bit of conflict. Conscientiousness. How sweet is she doing her work? Here we have creativity. Defense. I like a very defensive stance that's there. Here we have a disconnect, turned away. They're not speaking. There's a disconnection. That could be a very powerful card to come up for sure. Disconnect. Disconnect can be a trait of those who aren't quite vibrating at the same frequency. Depending on the context of your questions, the card is delivering a message to stop engaging with the current situation, individual, or stimulus. So it's actually telling you to walk away. I mean, that's a great card to have. Draw. I love her. Although she might just like been scared of something and somebody caught her in the middle of like not trying not to step on a snake. But I do love her. Here we have drama. We have the driven, that focused, driven person here with the driver. I do agree. There's definitely a range of ages. We've seen some diversity. I don't, I haven't paid super close attention. But so far, I wouldn't say a lot. I know there was Asian descent, so there's been some, but I would say mostly so far. But definitely different ages. I would say even some differences in economic statuses. Obviously, the people at a certain point who are getting pictures taken are going to also be telling as well. Here we have the driver or driven person. Here we have entertainment. Obviously, this is like a band or something. They all seem to have instruments. Yep. There's a violin, some guitars. He's feeling pretty cool with his sunglasses. Um, so, um, entertainment. Here we have Evermore. Here we have expectation. That's always expectation, I think, is one of the biggest things we all need to sit and work with. So that's important to have a card there because there's so much, I think, to work about. This is a cautionary tale that expectation and blind dates and perceptions about people, places, things, and events will always be manifest as mote it be, right? We put so much onto there's so much problems with expectations. So we have expectation card is good to have. I love this explorer. He is like dapper in his in his skin of snowsuit of skins. Here we have grave, powerful in this deck. Here we have hardship. I do feel like this is a little bit more of the drama card than the hardship card. Although I guess somebody who's having a lot of hardship probably wouldn't be getting their pictures taken. But it's good to have a hardship card. Haunted. I know it 100%. Jonathan says expectations are a form of self-sabotage, in my opinion. 100%. And a lot of times we just don't even know how big of a role it's playing. Here we have home. She's comfortable in her own chair and looks like she has maybe a spoon in her hand. Hospitality. He's going to offer you one drink too many, I feel like. Important. A sense of importance can be problematic or just pointing out something is important. Innocent. Invisible. That's an interesting picture. Invisible wants to acknowledge a well-oiled proverb. The nail that stands out gets hammered down. However, this is another untruth of your upbringing. Don't be different or stand out too confidently. Invisible says, come out wherever you are. Dare to be seen and loved, for there's enough time to lay low, content with the companionship of earthworms. Don't hide away from your inborn ability. Dedicate it into service. It's why you have it. While we can't please everyone, particularly the emphatically, sorry, I can't read, particularly the emphatically uninvolved, dimming your light out of fear of rejection or criticism creates a more unfortunate issue. It deprives so many people of the benefits and blessings of your soul gifts, and goes on. Additionally, this card could present when something isn't manifesting in your life quite the way you think it should. I really like the guidebook. I think that there is a lot here to work with. I just can't get over his or her. I don't know. Maybe it's a her. Like I want to know what's happening in this picture. That's what I want to know. Justice. Kindred. I like that they're holding hands in that sense of kindred spirits and connection. I love the word kindred. I'm an Anne of Green Gables person. I played Anne of Green Gables in the high school play. And she talks about, friends that are kindred spirits. So I just like the term kindred. Here we have labor. I love this. I have a picture of my grandfather with a pipe and a similar hat. He wasn't a blacksmith. It was more of a fishing picture, but it just kind of reminds me of that. Labor. Leadership. That's quite beautiful. You can just with her back straight and the clothing, you think of somebody who's stepping out like as a suffragette or something like that. That just gives you that, what is that from Mary Poppins? Like, cast off the shackles of yesterday, shoulder to shoulder into the fray. That's kind of what that feels like. Here we have the limelight. Somebody taking the limelight. That large guy is taking the limelight, even though he might have something important. Oh my goodness, what is happening here? Oh, he's under a table. Location. Oh, look at how sweet that is. They look so young, though, don't they? I mean, just think about people like, when they were, I don't know, obviously we don't know when this picture was taken, but they very often had to, they very often had to sit still for a long time for the picture to be exposed, and to kind of hold that position. But they look so young. Like these people are probably like fresh baby married back in the day, right? When people were getting married way too young. It's too sweet though. Here we have the martyr. Interesting. What has she got in her? What is going on? Oh, like rosaries. Looks like rosaries and maybe like Mary statues. But she's probably a nun, is my guess. Here we have the messenger. I love that. Look at how cute he is. Optimism. That's cute. Here we have peace. Oh, that's beautiful. She's got flowers in her hair. That's beautiful. Here we have perception. Ooh, perfection. That's a hard one to work with, isn't it? She is like making her notes, checking it twice, no nonsense. She's keeping track of every way in which you stepped out of the line. That's what I feel like with her. Right. According to the experts, there are three kinds of perfectionism. You take on a personal mission to be perfect, you impose your crazy standards on others, or you think others expect those unrealistic things from you. It's the triad tricycle of abuse with a bell basket and streamers. I really like this author. While it's good to be motivated and set high standards for yourself, you can tell if your expectations are unreasonable because they'll aspire to fulfilling this childhood prediction, you will fail. Of course, depending on the context, perfection denotes just that everything is perfect. The message associated with this card is that every little thing is just right, which is very rarely the case. So I can't imagine I'd use it that way too much. You couldn't have done more. You did the right thing. Stop being so hard on yourself. I definitely think the stop being so hard on yourself would come through strong with that card. Oh, look at him. Personality. Oh, I like him. He is just like all in on his smile. He is just, I don't know. Doesn't he look like he could be laughing, but maybe he's laughing so he doesn't start crying? I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit underneath that personality. Like I'm just gonna laugh because there's nothing else to do but laugh. But that's personality too. Here we have play. I don't know. That one feels a little bit creepy. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in the pictures. Here we have the player. Look at him with his cards. Let's see those cards up close. Look at those. Those are cool looking cards. They almost look like the Paris. What is that called? The Paracel. There's a deck of cards they have called like the Paracelsus cards. Let the good times roll. When this card is validating an individual or loved one, it resonates with a fun-loving spirit. It could be someone who's either young at heart or from your childhood or childhood or a child. It could be evoking joyful memories of playing cards together or recreational connections, but it also it can be if, however, you've been enjoying a long, drawn out phase of fecklessness and idleness, the beloved dead of play is tisking. It's saying, come on now, enough is enough. Maybe put away the bouncy ball and start tackling the ever lengthening to do list here. I don't know. I wonder if maybe this could be the laughing, yes, Raven song, that the last guy, this guy. Yeah, and he's laughing so hard it hurts. But yes, I love that. I love that scene in Mary Poppins where they're are ending up on the ceiling. Yes, I love that. Um, I almost wonder, like, this deck could be really useful to use with reversals, right? Because then you would know, because there's so many different ways that this could be interpreted, and the guidebook does a good job of lining those out. I kind of think maybe this might be a good candidate to try with reversals. So, are you being the player in a negative way and you need to like knock it off? Or do you need to embrace the idea of play? I could really see where this could be really useful that way. Here we have privilege. Here we have promise, kind of shaking on it. Prophecy. Oh, we have a fortune teller. And what is she using, people? The grandmother of tarot is not Pamela Coleman Smith. It's the playing card deck. We have to put that in there. Oh, bye, Jonathan. um, Here we have purpose. Obviously, sometimes the Knights Templar feels like it's like Knights Templar or something, and some of their purposes were very negative, but then sometimes they're very positive. So, that can go both ways. Again, I do kind of feel like this would be great. I think I would personally try this with try this with reversals, because religion, same thing, that could go either way. Remember, that's really sad and beautiful, especially with the angel wings and the baby. Like that could go, yeah, that's beautiful and sad. Here we have service. Love it. Shine. Look at her. Look at those hair. Like, how did they do that with their hair? And you saw that obviously with different hair types, because I've certainly seen that on uh, Caucasian European style women as well. Is there something, they put something under that to make those like bouffants? Is that what that's called? Beautiful. Snake. He looks like he should have been in like Abraham Lincoln and Vampire. You know, there's that movie Abraham Lincoln's with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. He looks like he should have been in that. Oh, focus. He's a snake. We got to watch out for him. He is up to no good. Let's see what Snake says. I find I use reversals a lot routinely. I use them more so in Oracle. By Jonathan and Denise. Beware the snake, for he's possessed of the gifts of seduction and manipulation. At its best, this oracle may represent great cunning, powers of persuasion, or an ability to mesmerize anyone away from their core beliefs and ideals. At its worst, scratch the snake's surface and discover a heart of wickedness. Here we have Sovereign, Survive. Here we have Teacher. That's a good card. Things. The importance or unimportance of things, I would assume. This card reminds you the acquisition of things is a short-term gratification. Decluttering, donating, actively change and raise the energy of a room and do wonders for everybody's psyche. Some of our grandparents, suffering from privations of war, rationing, and poverty, hung on the survival skills of frugality and practicality. Why buy new boots when the old ones can be fixed? My grandma, she was like, because, you know, again, they came out of that generation, and they would, you know, use the butter, and then she would save like the butter wrappings, and then use the butter wrappings to put onto the pans, you know, to grease the pans, you know, using everything. Time. Love that kind of Wheel of Fortune. Time marches ever onward. Our tribe. Vanity. Oh, that's pretty. Visitation. She looks like, you know, visitation could be creepy too, but she looks like somebody you wouldn't mind visiting. Oh my God. Can tell it's the end of the day, and I have done a lot of readings today, so I feel like I've just talked too much and can no longer speak. I wouldn't mind her visitating. Some others you wouldn't want visitating. We'll just make up new words. Wholesome. I love the sunglasses. Wise guy. You know, there's those all a little bit of an asshole kind of people. Look at this cute little witch. Let's see what it says about witch. I'm not sure this little girl would like to be cast as a witch, but she's adorable. Well, obviously she's wearing, I don't think that's collaged in. She looks like she's, I don't know. What do you think? Because look how her hands are. I don't think that's collaged in. It's probably like her Halloween costume. You were always different from the other kids in ways you couldn't quite articulate. Perhaps you came from a long line of peculiar, or you were one of a kind, always on the outside, scrying in. Others tried to be normal, safely identifying as cool, athletic, dramatic, academic, or nerdy. You, on the other hand, found sanctuary in a raging thunderstorm, feeling the most alive around Gothic arches and trees, not people, and soft moonlight flooding through your window panes. Beloved by animals, wildlife, and spirits, you're summoned to the natural and the uncanny. You are a witch. In contrast to the beloved dead of religion, this is the beloved dead's card of spirituality. When this card validates a loved one or an individual, this old soul is a healer, a metaphysical practitioner, or just, I do like this idea of kind of validating. I know one of the spreads is where did I see that? Where you pull a card. Okay, let's see. We'll try that. The who, yeah. So the very first one is the who. This first card is basic starting point information about the energy that you're connecting with. The second one is a validation. This is additional information about this ancestor, right? And then there is the message. So you would pull a card for sort of who's coming through, some more validating information, and then, okay, fine, I take your credentials. Now, what message do you have for me? kind of thing. So they do talk about that in the guidebook. Like if a card shows up as validating, it might say this is the kind of energy that is coming through. Now, just because a snake comes through doesn't mean that's it. Well, you could say, I don't know, I may not really trust everything. Again, I don't set up readings in that capacity. I don't set up connections with ancestors that way. Like, my setting up of connecting with ancestors is only people there to step forward that are helpful. So you can set those parameters your own self. So if snake showed up for me, I would be like, okay, this is somebody who's cunning. This is somebody who's smart. This is somebody who's going to help me to kind of think outside of the box, kind of like I approach the snake in Lenormand. So I might approach that a little bit differently because I'm not just asking for anybody to come through. So it just depends on, how you do your types of reading. Okay, I definitely want to see what this last card is about. We don't have wings. Okay, so this just has like a blessing, a Samhain blessing. Look, and we're coming on Samhain. By the light of the blood red moon, come gather in the corn. Tonight the wind will sing her fields, a song of souls forlorn. Glory be the Trinity when planets are in trine. Turn over a glass on a lettered board with numbers 0 to 9. First, close thine eyes and visualize, be bathed in sapphire light. Invoke the harvest rich and dark, for graveyards yield tonight. And spirits summoned one by one spell out their stories dear, of deaths incurred by violent means, of anger, dread, and fear. Let thy fingers lightly rest, for questions they'll pursue. But be careful who you ask to rise, for know they envy you. And know that those with hollowed eyes yearn desperately to see. And know that these with blackened souls the blood red moon sets free. That's exactly a message as to why not to mess with Ouija boards. I think you could either just leave this out, right? It doesn't go, I guess, with the rest of the, it's cool, but it really doesn't go with the rest of the cards. And we already have a communication card. So I would probably be inclined to not even put this in for ancestor readings, because I don't really see how it necessarily, I think it's cute and it's cool. I like the little rhyme there. It says to be careful, who you're contacting, because be wise in your connections. But I don't know that it necessarily fits in on how I would have said before going through the deck, is I would use it as communication. But because we have a card called communication, I don't even know that I'd put this in. I don't think it's necessary. So I'll probably would use it as a bookmark in the book, or I'm zoomed way in. All right, let's see how this deck shuffles up, shall we? Okay, we're going to leave the Spirit Throne out, but these get shuffled in, so that's important. And I'm going to kind of stick them in the middle. They feel like they're thin and flexible, like they're going to shuffle good. Sure, I think do I have that right here? Oh, I don't have it right here right now. Let me see if I can quickly find it. I need to clean out my cubicles. Ooh, it shuffles. If you're a riffle shuffler, it riffles very nicely. I actually think I'm gonna, okay, now I think I've done it correctly, but I think I'm gonna flip this and do reversals. I really think this is a very, very good candidate for reversals, but maybe not. And you can only tell by trying, right? You've got to try, see how it feels. Now, you really don't need to do reversal. I'm going to try, Miss Phyllis. Don't give up on me. It should be grabbable. It's just right now the state of my cubicles is terrible. So it's possible I'm not going to be able to find it quickly. That is on my list for between October 31st and November 7th is kind of putting my altar spaces and everything back in order, and resetting all of that. So you can also make sure, like, if you don't want to use reversals, you could also just make sure you set your positions, right? So if you're setting a position for, so who is this ancestor? maybe do a validation, and then doing a, what is the, what is the message, or what is a, what is something positive that I can learn from this person, and what is something negative that I can take from this person. Then you can know how to read those particular cards, right? So if you put into your positions, then, then you're kind of good to go in that way. Again, this is an act, so then you would always pull a card. I'm just kind of seeing what we're getting here. So then we have justice reverse. So that message might be about injustice. So I don't know. I kind of have a feeling like I'm gonna at least try. Did I do the Ouija? No, I left it out. I kind of think I'm gonna try it reverse for a little bit and see if that works. So if I just did like my basic, let me see if I can scroll out a little bit more. If I did my, I know we can see this here, but we're just testing. Oh, now I made it worse. See, don't try to fix things, because then you just make it worse. And now I've got it in front of my face. Okay, there's too many chords. There we go. Yeah, it riffle shuffles beautifully, Deirdre, for sure. I am very happy with that. And again, do as I say, not as I do. If you riffle shuffle, you're going to chip up your corners. But the fact of the matter is, when you slam your cards in chunks too, you're going to a little bit as well. I see some people who like shuffle them, like squish them all in there. But I don't care. I don't care if my gilding, it's definitely not stiff and scratchy. Somebody asked that earlier. They may not still be here. It feels nice and flexible. It doesn't mean it's not going to come off, but it feels really good. So if I were doing my normal, and I don't think I have the space because it's usually smaller cards, but if I was doing like my normal ancestor reading, I normally use a different deck, but we'll just use this deck. And I would be pulling a card for a theme at the top, because I kind of pull it like a, and I'm going to slide this over here. I pull it as a, up in the branches of the tree, which started to get an idea about this. And so here we have the wise guy, which we didn't look at. So are these alphabetical, hopefully? Yes. Good. So wise guy, if this card is validating or describing an experience, energy, or individual, the wise guy, it could be hilarious and cracking comic with a rapier sharp wit, or he could be a know-it-all. Depending on the context of your question, the beloved dead of wise guy is advising you to protect yourself physically, economically, or spiritually. So it's actually in its context of what is an overarching theme, that I would probably take that as, all right, I actually need to be wise, and there's some way in which I need to be protecting myself in some way. Enter into a current interaction or transaction with extreme caution and eyes on the back of your head. So this is asking me to be wise about something and smart and pay attention, because somebody could be trying to fool me in some way, or a situation might not be very clear. So, okay, that's my overriding thing. Then I always say, all right, well, what should I be doing about the situation? And who is an ancestor that might be stepping forward to help me with that, which is what I would use that chair for, right? So then I might say, okay, well, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm actually not supposed to be sure, because I'm having this reversal right now. I need to take the shine down a little bit here. I'd have to read the guidebook here, but just off of the top, it's actually a time to sort of tone things down, sort of get serious. I need to pay attention to what might be going on in the situation. I need to be able to see clearly. And if things are so bright and shining that I can't even see clearly, that's not going to help me right now in some way. Then I would put the card down that is an ancestor that's going to help me with that. The grave reverse is interesting, right? This is somebody who's literally coming back. Again, I'd have to read the card, but this is somebody literally coming back to help in some way, and is crossing that veil very specifically to help whatever's going on. Again, we don't have a reading on the table. You know how I feel about fake readings, but But yeah, so then I would put this to talk about who's going to help me. Again, this is just my basic ancestor reading, so I'm just testing it. Then I kind of open the table up, is what I generally do down in the roots, for any messages to might come through. I usually start with the taproot because it often has to do with the overarching theme. But I would just kind of open these would for now. In this case, I would either use another deck or I would pull two cards that would be the ancestor coming through, and what they need to tell me is likely what I would do, because there's always an ancestor and a message that needs to come through. Again, this is just my basic ancestor reading. So I would probably pull two cards because I want the first one then would really say who is this ancestor that's coming through? What they're stepping into this card. It tells me something about them and what is the message that they have for me. And I would that's probably how I would approach this particular reading. Again, this is not their reading there. I don't want to give away all their readings either. But I just want to see how that might play out. I don't know. I'm very interested. I'm very hopeful about this. I think there's a lot here to work with. I won't know till I, get into it and really try it. Again, there's quite a lot in the how to use this. There's examples of how to use it, how to set your intentions of what you're doing, different spreads to be able to use. So I think that there's a lot here to be able to work with to walk you through doing this type of reading as well. So I don't know. I'm interested. The wings do not bother me. I wondered if the wings would bother me. They don't bother me. The people don't actually bother me. I don't believe that we live just one lifetime, right? So these are just bodies that inhabited a soul. And so that somebody else, an energy can step in through the image of the card and have something to say. I mean, that's fine. I don't think it will get in my way. I'm not going to know until I obviously work with it. But yeah, I think it's quite promising. I like, again, the amount of cards. I like the acts of love and the nuance that could bring into it. I really like the guidebook. I think that it gives you different ways to look at each one of the cards and how that might be turning up depending on the situation. So the guidebook is not big, right? This is quite, a thin guidebook, but I do feel like it's very well written. I like her tone of voice. She's got a very tongue-in-cheek, kind of funny, but also at the same time pointedly getting to what she's trying to say. So I'm interested. I know there's not as much. I kind of thought from what I was seeing that there was be a lot more. There's definitely some, but I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say there's a ton for sure. I didn't want to shuffle that in. So there's definitely, it's there, but it is, and again, I guess it's if I don't know if all of these cards were, this seems like some of both. I'm not sure on that one. If all of these were, donated images from people, I guess that, what can you do with what you have? I'm not sure how all of these were gained. So there's definitely some, but it's also by no means like evenly in terms of ethnicity, which could be difficult, right? If you're working with ancestral energy and your ancestry is not European, right? You certainly aren't seeing necessarily I feel like, I don't know with her, which is fine. You're certainly not then seeing your ancestors. So then I don't know if something like working with the Hoodoo Tarot or something else like that in an ancestral capacity might be, the wings grew on me as well. Might actually suit better because if you're talking about your ancestry, I could definitely see where, like, if you are not of European descent, then it's going to be an extra barrier, right? Because even if you are of European descent, like I am, these aren't my actual, I have one barrier in that these are not my ancestors. These are just random people. But if your entire ethnicity is something else, I could see where that might be a barrier to either that, or maybe it allows you to really kind of distance yourself from these exact people and get to just the situation. I'm not sure, because obviously that's not my um that's not my experience. So it could, I wonder, partly it could help you to see these not as these people as not the actual ancestors, or if not. But yeah, that's not very many for sure, uh when you look at that. So that again could be a aid to somebody who is of European descent, because you're mostly going to see that who would be your ancestor. But if that is not your heritage and your story, then that could I could 100% see where that would be a problematic. As Phyllis says, for 80 cards, you would think that there would be there's an opportunity for there to be a lot more, for sure. So there we go. Yeah, I don't know, Miss Phyllis. Miss Phyllis is still conflicted again for some of those reasons that we've said. Obviously, it's not going to be for everybody. Again, if your heritage is European, then this might work better for you than somebody that's not. And I can't think of like what would be another deck that might lean away from that. Again, maybe a deck that just doesn't have people in it. I generally use, like I said, the Shaman's Oracle, which just has cave paintings in it. There's no ethnicity there whatsoever, because they're just cave paintings. And that's generally what I use. So it's possible that just having a deck without any people in it may remain my go-to. I mean, nothing's going to supersede the Shaman's Oracle for me. But I could see ways in which you could can use this. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. But maybe using something, whether it's a straight, although I think finding an oracle deck, I don't know, I don't use straight tarot a lot, to be honest, with ancestor readings. It's a piece of it, a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing. Um, or using something like the Crow Tarot or something like that that just doesn't have any people in it, might work. Or if you have a deck that is of your specific ethnicity, whether it's a tarot deck or an oracle deck, that might help you. Like, I do keep on my ancestor space a deck that speaks to Oracle of Land, Oracle of Blood. I do have one that is Native American in nature, to speak both to native of ancestor of land, but also some degree ancestor of blood of this continent. So you might have a specific deck that locks you into a specific space that you're looking for as well. So anyways, I enjoyed this. I have no clue. I had mixed feelings going into it. I really like the guidebook. Some of the pictures definitely make me laugh. I feel like that the people wouldn't 100% get in the way for me, that I can just see, they're just part of the card, not like they don't have to be, obviously. Now you can also, the other thing is, let me just mention this really quick. You can make your own deck. Like if you have a lot of pictures, my friend Patrick did this from the Living Wheel. He took like all of the ancestor that he has images of that he works with, and he, made a deck, and printed it out for himself to work, not so much as a divination deck, but as sort of a setting, setting out on their birthdays and honoring and those types of things. So always remember, we each have a lot of pictures ourselves. Also, there are, pictures in the common domain, like someplace like Pixabay or whatever, and potentially creating your own, like that speaks to the different ethnicities. If you have mixed heritages and things, that you might pull in those together and make a similar type, not to sell, obviously you are, unless they're all common domain, but you could pull together a deck for yourself that really brings in all those different textures of ethnicity and culture and space, and time, that you could pull in and create for yourself an oracle deck that very much more in tune with those types of things as well. That could be a really interesting interesting project, right, for you to do in terms of connecting to your ancestral energy as well. So lots of options out there. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I have enjoyed walking through this with you all. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your night. Those are here with me live, and day or night, depending on when you are watching this. Again, this is something you can pick up. I found it at Barnes and Nobles. I'm sure it's on Amazon. I don't know if Carrie Paris sells it on her website or not, but we've been looking at The Beloved Dead. I do love the name of it, and I love the chit chat in the guidebook. So I will talk to you guys all later. Have a wonderful rest of your night or day.